Hello, I'm Caspian Conran, a political economist at Baringa. Welcome to this four-part series where we'll be looking at the implications of the choices of the four major emitters as we move ahead to Glasgow and COP26. These four players, China, the United States, the EU and India, will have a disproportionate impact over the global energy transition and, crucially, whether we'll hit those Paris-aligned goals. India, the world's largest democracy and a crucial pillar in the liberal alliance of democratic states in the Asia-Pacific. We've evaluated India's decarbonisation policies in accordance with our credibility and durability framework. The credibility axis on the x-axis looks at policy maturity, evaluating India across the four main categories: power generation, transport, buildings and energy efficiency. On this criteria, India performs relatively weak compared to the other three major emitters, averaging a score of just 1. Our durability axis on the y-axis looks at the political support, the momentum behind decarbonisation. Here too, India scores a relatively neutral outlook of just 0. We know that within India, the salience of the climate question is relatively low, competing against other priorities such as economic growth and poverty alleviation. We also know that it's common for political and economic actors in India to cite the climate challenge as a Western developed market problem. The burden should be borne more by the wealthy states with higher historical emissions and higher per capita emissions historically. That's led to a rapid emissions growth in recent years as economic growth has been prioritised. You can see rapid growth from 2005 base. And crucially, projections of emissions from Climate Action Tracker show that is set to continue under the current policy prospectus. That's not to say that there aren't emissions targets, however. We know that Prime Minister Modi has committed to reduce the intensity of emissions as a proportion of GDP by 35% by 2030. In addition, there is some policy development, most notably an ambition to increase renewable energy as a proportion of the energy mix to 40% by 2040. In addition, in transport as well, there are new subsidies for electric vehicle scooters in urban centres. That's not to say that there aren't risks to the energy transition in India, however. Primarily, a moral hazard exists in the coal-fired sector with power generation. State-backed banks had funded a rapid expansion of the coal-fired fleet over recent decades, but the expected demand for that power never materialised. That's created huge excess capacity within that sector, creating default risk for the government. Therefore, there is a moral hazard. Whenever the government seeks to expand renewable capacity, they worsen the solvency and default risk of their existing coal assets. This undermines the ability of India to rapidly engage in the energy transition and deploy at scale renewable technologies. Secondly, we know protectionist impulses within India are rising rapidly. As you can see on the right-hand side, Chinese imports of solar modules helped rapidly expand the installation capacity of solar technologies over recent years. However, rising tariffs on Chinese imports to support domestic manufacturing has led to a reduction in installed capacity. That's because there isn't the capacity within the Indian economy to meet the volumes and price competitive nature for these technologies to compete with coal. That slowed the deployment of renewable energy technologies over recent years. Let us know what you think of the Indian energy transition by commenting below.